As you probably don't know, today is International Space Day. Normally it's not an event I would care to celebrate, but seeing how I'm actually in the ex-USSR, then I think it's certainly worth celebrating. I find this statue very pleasing actually. There's similar statues all over the ex-USSR, sometimes with 3 people, this one with 2 people. It's very well made, and even though it's probably been standing there for 50 years, it's still in excellent condition. And on the other side we see a woman. She's been placed above him, and maybe that's because women during the Cold War years at least were elevated to a very high level, so maybe it's trying to show that. Again, a classic piece of socialist realism. In the 1950s, the 2 superpowers of the world at the time, the United States of America and the USSR, engaged in a battle to be the first ones to conquer space. I think for most people they would consider the Americans to be the favourites, because a lot of people still considered the Soviet Union to be a bit of a backward communist country. In 1959, I believe it was, 2 little space dogs called Belka and Strelka, or Squirrel and Arrow, they became the first living creatures to successfully orbit the Earth. They were Soviet dogs. Amazingly, the so-called less sophisticated of the superpowers was winning the space race. And in 1961, the USSR became the first country to send a human into space. Winning the space race gave the Soviet Union a huge amount of prestige and international acclaim, and showed the world that the communist state could compete and even surpass the capitalist state. Really coincidentally, I'm just walking past a place which I guess is a school now, and you can see a spaceman there. That first man in space was, of course, Yuri Gagarin. And befittingly, on Space Day, I'm having a little stroll down the street named in his honour. Indeed, in every town and city all over the Soviet Union, and now what is the ex-Soviet Union, you can still find regions and streets, schools and parks named after Yuri Gagarin. In the 1960s, Gagarin was probably the most well-known person on Earth. He was very popular all over the world, not just because of what he achieved, but because he was a very humble, down-to-earth person. Of course, he and his name were used for propaganda purposes by the USSR, but who can blame them really? And in fairness, Neil Armstrong, who was the first man on the moon shortly afterwards, was also very well known, and that was well publicised as well. Gagarin showed that communists could be good guys. It seems this school's celebrating the occasion, 12th of April, 60 years from the first flight by Gagarin. After Lenin and Pushkin, there's probably more busts and statues to Gagarin than anyone else. You come across the Russian word for space, cosmos, a lot in everyday life. Plenty of cafes and cinemas are called Cosmos, as well as one of the main hotels in Moscow. It's an old Soviet job, so I don't necessarily recommend staying there, unless you're French, because it's got a statue of Charles de Gaulle out the front. It's very common for schools to be named after Gagarin. I guess someone like Gagarin can help inspire children to reach greatness. If Gagarin can, then anyone can, I guess. I'm on the main street of the city here, Lenin Street, and there's a school nearby named after Gagarin, and I think school's probably out by now, so we might be able to pop into the playground and have a look at the bust of Gagarin they have there. So this beautiful mint coloured building is the school in question. Doesn't seem to be any kids around and the door's open, so I guess we can have a quick little look inside. So in the school playground you can find a bust to the man himself, although I've mentioned in the past, haven't I, how local sculptors seem to find it a bit challenging sculpting Caucasian faces, and this is another such example. That's not a particularly good Gagarin, if I'm going to be critical. You can just about make out it's him, but it's not a great one. I've seen far better. I remember saying the same thing about this one. It's supposed to be Yuri Gagarin, but it looks like a Kyrgyz stepbrother. You see lots of space-related mosaics all around, like this one here. This is a really nice detailed one as well that I saw in one of the sanatoriums. This was in the same sanatorium nearby. This was on the wall of the residential estate in a video we saw not long ago. This was when I had my night trip to Tokmok, and the cinema in the back is called Cosmos. This was in the summer camp that had a little nose around, and I spotted this statue of a young Yuri Gagarin wannabe. And this, probably my favourite space or Gagarin related thing, this beautiful mosaic.